All right, in this lesson, we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit. We've been talking about adjusting entries, but this time we're going to be talking about the last thing that an accountant would do is set up the books for the new year. So one of the things that kind of timeline that we didn't do is we didn't do the financial statements that would happen between the adjusting entries and the closing entries. The reason why we're not doing that is we already covered that in another section. So it's the same rituals there where we start with the income statement, statement of retained earnings, and then balance sheet, and then finally statement of cash flows. Since we've already covered that, we won't cover that here, but the same thing. Once you have that adjusted trial balance, you can pretty much do those financial statements. But the very last step that is done in an accounting cycle is that we are going to have to close all of our accounts. So to do that, that's what we're going to, well, to do that, we're going to show you kind of the theoreticalness of it, and then we'll show you how we actually do it. So let's get started here. So what would happen in this scenario? So it's the end of a baseball game, and the score is home has 4 and away has 3. Then a couple days later, at the start of the next game with a new opponent, the scoreboard reads 4-2 at the very start of the game, meaning that this was the score that each team had at the end of the last game. So the home team had 4 points in the last game, so we just rolled that 4 over, and their new opponent had 2 from their last game, so we rolled that forward. How would that work at the end of the day? What's wrong with that picture? Well, you're probably saying to yourself, well, we would reset that at the end of the game because that 4 points that they're bringing over wasn't from this opponent, it was for the last opponent, and it's not really fair at the end of the day. Well, the same thing can be said about a company's financial statement. In a competitive sports situation, the scoreboard is resetted each game to reflect the end of the game, but also to level the playing field for the next game, right? Just makes sense. There are some sports where we might roll it over forward, but generally speaking, we really don't at the end of the day. Now, the closing entries is the final step of the accounting cycle in that we are closing the scoreboard type of accounts in order to get them ready for the new game, the new year. Okay, this is known as the closing process. So the closing process is when we clear the scoreboards and we get it ready for that next year's transactions. Okay, so why do we close? Well, this is the reason why we close. The first reason is we want to reset the revenues, expense, and dividends accounts to 0 at the end of each period. We also want to summarize a period's revenues and expenses, and the way that we do that is by closing the account. So this has the time period assumption. This is the assumption that we can break a company's financial statements or financial information into segments of time. So by closing them out, we're actually breaking it to an annual basis or a yearly basis. So when it's time to get ready to close the account, we make a journal entry to reset all of the accounts to 0. Now, the journal entry is necessary. So again, we don't just do things. We don't just make them 0. We actually have to do a journal entry to then book into our general ledger, which would then 0 out the accounts. So a journal entry is what you're going to learn here as we close out our accounts. So that's kind of the intro to closing entries. I know it was a quick one, but in the next lesson, which is a little bit longer, we're going to show you how we actually close. So hope you kind of have a good somewhat foundation, but we'll see you in the next lesson where we'll actually go through the closing process. So until then, we'll see you in the next lesson. Hey guys, it is Patrick. Don't forget to press the like button and share this video with someone who could get a lot of use from watching this lesson, like maybe a classmate or maybe a friend or maybe just a parent, just because you wanted to share this video because you're very excited about what you saw. Share it with someone. And if you want to help us grow and help us make sure that we put the very best in accounting topics out on YouTube, make sure you press the subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. That way you're alerted every time we post videos to this channel. Now, I do this with every one of my classes at the end of class. What did you learn from this lesson? Put that in the comment section below and I'll respond to you on what you got out of this video. So hope you enjoyed this video and we will see you in the next lesson.